traitor, you bum, you scum. You're an idiot.
Justice for Sherell Pringle. That's who we need to be saving. Never mind him. She's gone before Christmas.
I love my sister. I miss my sister and I want her back. But we found her.
I'm done with him. 4 words. That is all it took. 4 words sent to a friend. And within hours, a 40-year-old mother, a woman who loved to travel and hike, and had just put an offer on her dream home, was dead. Not just dead, destroyed. 217 times over. Let that number settle for a moment. 217 stab wounds. The medical examiner had to count them. Her family was told that Sherell was almost unrecognizable, that they would have to hold a closed casket funeral, because no amount of love can undo what one man did to a body out of pure vicious rage. This is the story of Sherell Pringle, a Woburn, Massachusetts woman who dared to say she was done and paid for it with her life. This is also a story about what happens when a dangerous man is allowed to keep circling the same women. When the warning signs are visible, the threats are real, and the system moves just slow enough to be too late. Welcome to Crime Gone Viral, where the cases that shake you are the cases that matter, where every victim gets a voice, and where we never let the story die. I'm your host. Today's case is personal, not because I knew Sherell, but because anyone who hears her story will feel like they did. If you are ready, let's dive in.
Happy birthday to Willie Watt. Willie Watt. Happy birthday.
Before we talk about how Sherell Pringle died, we need to talk about how she lived. Because she was not just a headline, she was not just a case number. She was a woman in full, layered, ambitious, and deeply loved. Sherell Pringle was 40 years old, a resident of Woburn, Massachusetts, a working-class city just north of Boston, the kind of place where people look out for each other and everybody has a story. Sherell had a big one. Family and friends described her as ambitious and driven, a natural leader who had carved out a life on her own terms. She loved the outdoors. Hiking was one of her great escapes, and she traveled whenever she could. She had plans, real plans, for herself and for the future she was building. She had a teenage son named Jamani. He was her world. She was raising him in the city, working, building, pushing forward. And in the weeks just before Christmas 2021, something extraordinary happened. Sherell put an offer on her dream home, and it was accepted. After she was gone, her family would learn that the offer had gone through. The home was hers. She would never live in it. That is the particular cruelty of this case. She was not just surviving, she was thriving. And someone took that away because he couldn't stand the idea that she no longer needed him. Sherell had been in a relationship with a man named Bruce Myben. He was 44 years old and lived in Lynn, Massachusetts, a neighboring city about 10 miles from Woburn. They had been seeing each other for several months. The relationship was, by all accounts, turbulent, controlling. There had been incidents, escalating ones. In the weeks leading up to December 2021, Sherell had made a decision. She texted a friend. She told her she was done. 4 words, and everything changed. It was Saturday, December 18th, 2021. 1 week before Christmas. Sherell had plans that evening. She was going out with Bruce. Her family knew about it. For reasons that may never be fully explained, perhaps she was trying to have a final conversation. Perhaps there were lingering loose ends. She agreed to see him one more time. She left that evening and went on what would turn out to be their last date. That night, she was never seen alive again. Sunday came. No word from Sherell. Her family tried her phone. No answer. Her son Jamani was home, and he knew something was wrong because his mother always checked in. Always. The fact that she hadn't made contact was not just unusual. It was alarming. Her family reported her missing immediately. They didn't wait. They didn't assume she was fine. They knew Sherell, and this was not Sherell. Bruce Mabin, meanwhile, told the family he had dropped her off early Sunday morning. He said everything was fine when he left her. He said he didn't know where she was. But Sherell's son Jamani said that wasn't possible. He had been home all night. His mother never came through the door.
Back to, he was the last person with her. If you're the last person with somebody that's missing, you should be the first one to help, the first one to the police, the first one, everything. But this guy don't want to be in contact with nobody. That's a sign right there.
Monday, December 20th. Still no word from Sherell. Her family, refusing to sit still, refusing to wait for a system that was moving too slowly, took matters into their own hands. They began retracing her steps, and they found her phone, discarded in a sewer near where she was last seen. A phone doesn't end up in a sewer by accident. 3 days after Sherell disappeared, her family was out searching again, following the path from where her phone was found, driving along Route 107 in Saugus, a stretch of highway lined with marshland north of Boston. A local employee spotted a group of people gathered at the side of the road. He saw them looking at something, saw them with phones out, filming. He told one of his coworkers to call 911 because they had found a body. One of Sherell's family members recognized her purse first. Just off the roadway were the marsh, and a few feet away, her body lying in the cold. It was Sherell's teenage son Jamani, who made the call to confirm what the family already knew, but couldn't bear to speak aloud. His mother was gone. It has been pure hell. The Essex County District Attorney's Office took over the investigation immediately. State police were on the scene. The message from authorities was swift. Foul play was suspected. What the medical examiner would reveal in the days and weeks that followed was nothing short of staggering. Sherell Pringle had been stabbed 217 times. 217. Prosecutors would later describe the crime as demonstrating extreme atrocity and cruelty, the legal standard in Massachusetts for the most aggravated form of murder. But no legal definition can capture what 217 wounds means in human terms. It means someone didn't just kill her. It means someone wanted her obliterated. This was not a crime of passion. This was not a moment of rage that got out of hand. This was systematic. This was personal. This was a man punishing a woman for having the courage to leave. Sherell's mother, Pearl, would later stand in a courtroom and tell the world that her daughter was almost unrecognizable, that they couldn't have an open casket at her funeral, that she had to say goodbye to her child through a closed lid because of what Bruce Mabin had done. Let that land. A mother burying her daughter, a teenage son, Jamani, losing his mother the week before Christmas, a family that would never be whole again. And while they searched for her for 3 days, while Pearl sat awake at night wondering if Sherell was cold, while Jamani tracked his mother's phone and found it in a sewer, Bruce Mabin reportedly posted her missing flyer on social media. He posted her missing flyer, playing the concerned ex-boyfriend, the grieving partner, the man who just didn't know where she was, a wolf in fake tears, a mask for a monster. Investigators were already building their case. The DNA evidence at the scene, the timeline, the fact that Bruce had lied about dropping her off, the fact that the man who claimed to care about her had been unreachable since she vanished. Her family said it plainly. He was the last one with her. If you are the last one to be with someone who is missing, you should be the first one to come to the police. But he didn't want to be with nobody. That is a sign. Within 24 hours of Sherell's body being found, law enforcement moved.
217 stab wounds. I sit on my porch at night alone and just cry. When Sherell was murdered, a piece of me died with her.
To understand what happened to Sherell Pringle, you need to understand who Bruce Mabin is. Not just the man who killed her, but the man who existed before December 2021. Because killers rarely appear out of nowhere. They announce themselves in smaller moments, in earlier choices, in the trail they leave before the thing they can't take back. Bruce Mabin had a record. He had a pattern of behavior around women. He was the kind of man who, when a relationship didn't go his way, did not simply move on. The most chilling detail to emerge during the investigation was this. In the period leading up to December 18th, Bruce had broken into Sherell's home and threatened her with a knife. This was before the murder. This was after she had told him she was done. This was after she sent that text. He broke into her home. He threatened her with a weapon. He looked her in the eye and made it clear what he was capable of. And he was still free. The line between a threat and a murder is often just opportunity. And when we don't take threats seriously, when we don't hold dangerous men accountable for the early warning shots, we leave women unprotected in exactly the window that matters most. Sherell had confided in a friend. She sent that message. She was trying to get out. She was trying to end things safely. But Bruce was not the kind of man who heard no as an answer. He heard it as a provocation. Prosecutors later revealed that on the night of December 18th, Bruce had killed Sherell as a direct response to her decision to end the relationship. She had told him she was done. He broke. And he made sure that if he couldn't have her, no one else would either. 217 times, one for every time he couldn't let go.
Sweet girl.
And I'm just feeling empty inside. I need my mom. I want her back. And everything ties back to he was the last person with her. And if you're the last person with somebody that's missing, you should be the first one to help, the first one to the police, the first one everything. But this guy don't want to be in contact with nobody. That's a sign right there.
One of the most significant elements of this case, the thing that made investigators certain very early that Bruce Maben was their man, was the lie he told from the very beginning. He said he dropped Sherell off early Sunday morning. He said she was fine when he left. He said he didn't know where she went after that. Jamani, Sherell's teenage son, the young man who had to become an investigator in his own mother's disappearance, knew that was false. He had been home all Sunday morning. His mother never came through the door. A mother who always checked in, a son who was always watching for her headlights, and a closed, locked door that never opened. Then there was the phone. Sherell's phone discarded in a sewer. That's not where a woman leaves her phone when she's dropped off safely at home. That is where a phone goes when someone doesn't want it to be found, when someone is trying to destroy a trail. And then there was the way Bruce behaved in the days between Sherell's disappearance and her body being found. He made himself scarce. He did not cooperate with police. He did not reach out to her family proactively. He posted the missing flyer on social media, but he was nowhere to be found when her family was out walking the marshes in December cold, searching for her. Innocent people don't hide. Innocent people don't need to manage their story. Innocent people rush toward the investigation. They don't wait to be found. The DNA evidence recovered from the scene sealed it. Combined with the timeline, the lies, the prior break-in and knife threat, and Sherell's own text message to her friend, the prosecution built a case that was, by the end, overwhelming. In January 2022, just weeks after his initial arrest, Bruce Maben was formally charged with first-degree murder. He had been held without bail since his original arrest. He would remain so. The trial was coming, and when it did, Sherell's family would finally be heard. From the first moments after Sherell's body was found, her family made it clear they were not going to disappear quietly into their grief. They were going to be loud. They were going to be present. They were going to make sure the world knew her name. Pearl Garner, Sherell's mother, became the face of that fight. Pearl was 60-something years old and carrying more pain than one person should have to hold. She had not just lost her daughter. She had spent 3 days not knowing where her daughter was. 3 days of sitting up at night wondering if Sherell was cold, wondering what coat she had on, wondering if she was alive somewhere waiting to be found. When Sherell was found in that marsh off Route 107, Pearl went to the scene. She stood on the side of that highway in the December cold, and she screamed at the cameras, and she grieved in full public view because she could not contain what was happening inside her. Because some things cannot be contained. It has been pure hell. At the early hearings, before Bruce was charged with murder, when he was still only facing larceny, tampering, and obstruction charges, the family showed up. Dozens of them, in full force. The courtroom was lined with a dozen police officers trying to keep order. When Bruce walked in and came face to face with Sherell's family, the tension was not just felt, it was audible. They screamed at him. They called him everything he deserved to be called. His defense attorney tried to prevent the confrontation, but you cannot prevent grief. You cannot manage the sound of a family's anguish in the direction of the man who caused it. Through it all, the defense maintained that Bruce was innocent, that there wasn't much of a case, that the government had no evidence to support the allegations. The family had something different to say about that. They sat through every hearing, every appearance, every procedural delay. They carried Sherell's memory into every courtroom, every press interview, every moment when it would have been easier to stay home and grieve in private. They didn't, because Sherell deserved better than silence. Sherell's brother also spoke publicly, a man carrying the weight of his own grief while simultaneously trying to be strong for his mother, and for Jamani, for the teenage boy who had found out his mother was never coming home just before Christmas.
You're a bum. You scum. You're an idiot.
Justice for Sherell Pringle. That's who we need to be saving. Never mind him. She's gone before Christmas.
You don't deserve to be walking here. You will get what you deserve, because God don't like ugly. You're right in hell for what you did.
Bruce Mabin's murder trial came in the fall, after months of procedural hearings, continuances, and the grinding machinery of the criminal justice system. The case that had begun in a marsh off Route 107 was finally before a jury. The prosecution laid out a case built on forensic evidence, the DNA recovered from the scene, the timeline of events, the testimony about the prior break-in and knife threat, and Sherell's own words, the text she sent to her friend days before her death, saying she was done with Bruce. Prosecutors described the killing as showing extreme atrocity and cruelty, language with specific legal weight in Massachusetts that can elevate a murder conviction to first degree. With 217 documented stab wounds, the evidence spoke for itself. The defense attempted to argue there wasn't enough to convict, that the evidence was circumstantial, that their client maintained his innocence. The jury disagreed. Bruce Mabin was found guilty of first-degree murder. The man who lied about dropping Sherell off, the man who posted her missing flyer while her family searched the marsh, the man who stabbed her 217 times, was convicted. And then came sentencing. And with sentencing came something that no legal outcome can provide, but that a family nonetheless needs: the chance to speak, to look the person who destroyed their lives directly in the face, to make him sit still and hear what he did. Bruce Mabin sat in court in a light blue button-up shirt. He kept his head down. Sherell's family stood up, one by one, and they did not mince words. Pearl Garner had waited for this moment. She had waited through 3 days of not knowing, through the horror of the marsh, through closed casket goodbyes, through early hearings where Bruce Mabin walked in looking unbothered, while her family screamed, through months of procedure, through a trial, through a verdict, and now he was sitting in front of her, and she had the floor. What Pearl Garner said in that courtroom, every word of it, should be heard by anyone who thinks that victims of violence are silent. Bruce Mabin sat there with his head down. He did not look at her. He did not speak. He showed no sign of remorse, not a word, not a gesture, nothing. Sherell's brother spoke next. He spoke of having to cry cities away behind closed doors while trying to stay strong for his family. He spoke of the unfairness of it, of watching his mother age in grief, of helping raise a boy who would grow up without his mother. And Sherell's mother mentioned the dream home, the offer that was accepted after her daughter was already gone, the house Sherell would never live in, the life she would never get to inhabit. That detail, that small, devastating detail, will stay with you. The judge sentenced Bruce Mabin to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will never see the outside of a prison again. It was the right sentence. It was the only sentence that fit 217 wounds. But it did not bring Sherell back. It did not give Jamani his mother. It did not give Pearl her daughter. It did not give the family the open casket they deserved, the goodbye they deserved, the Christmas they were supposed to have. Justice was served. Sherell Pringle's case is, in many ways, tragically common, and that is the most disturbing thing about it. The pattern in this case: a woman attempting to leave a controlling relationship, a man escalating in response to that departure, a final violent act committed at the moment of ultimate rejection, is not unusual. It is, in fact, the most documented pattern in intimate partner homicide. Experts in domestic violence have a name for it: departure danger. The most dangerous moment in an abusive relationship is not the middle of it, it is the end. The moment a person says they are done. The moment they try to walk away. That is when controlling, violent partners are most likely to escalate, because departure is the ultimate challenge to their control. Sherell had already experienced a preview of what Bruce was capable of. He broke into her home. He threatened her with a knife. These were not ambiguous warning signs. These were explicit communications of intent. And he was still free. He was out on bail for another open case when he killed her. That is a system failure. That is a point where a different set of decisions, by courts, by law enforcement, by the mechanisms we have built to protect people, might have changed Sherell's fate. We do not tell this story to blame anyone but the man who killed her. Bruce Maben made his choices. He is responsible. But systems that allow dangerous men to keep circling are also part of the story, and we have to be honest about that. There is also the question of what Sherell's family found, and how they found it. It was not investigators who discovered her phone. It was her son Jamani, a teenager, who tracked it. It was her family who drove to Route 107, spotted her purse from a moving car, and found her body. A mother and son searching a cold marsh in December, who brought their loved one home. Pearl Garner told reporters she felt the police should be doing much more. That raw, anguished statement reflects something that family after family in cases like this reports. The grief of having to fight for urgency, of having to become your own investigator, of having to scream before anyone listens. These are the questions Sherell's story leaves us with, not just about one case, but about all of them. Sherell Pringle wanted peace. She wanted her dream home. She wanted to raise her son and hike on weekends and travel and live her life on her own terms. She had the courage to say she was done with someone who was hurting her. And she was killed for it. So what do we do with that? What do we take from a story this brutal, this senseless, this preventable? First, we learn the signs of departure danger. If someone you love is trying to leave a controlling relationship, the period immediately after that decision is the most dangerous. Be there. Stay close. Help them make a plan. Don't let them be alone in those first days and weeks. The risk is highest when the controlling partner senses they are losing control. Second, we take threats seriously. Bruce had already broken into Sherell's home. He had already threatened her with a knife. If the people around you are making threats, even threats that stop short of physical harm, those are not warning shots you can afford to dismiss. Report them, document them, take them to law enforcement, even when law enforcement moves slowly. Third, we support the families who keep fighting. Pearl Garner stood on that highway in December and screamed at the cameras because she had nowhere else to put her grief. She stood in that courtroom and looked her daughter's killer in the face and told him God don't like ugly. That is not weakness. That is a woman fighting for her daughter with everything she has left. We honor that. We remember that. Fourth, we say Sherell's name. We say Jamani's name, the teenager who tracked his mother's phone through a sewer and into a marsh and had to live through Christmas with that knowledge. We say Pearl's name. We remember that behind every headline is a family that has to keep getting up the next morning. Sherell Pringle said she was done. She was brave enough to try to leave. She deserved to make it out. We owe it to her, and to every woman who has ever sent a message like that to a friend, to build a world where saying you're done does not cost you your life. If this video moved you, if Sherell's story stayed with you, then do something with that feeling. Like this video so more people find it. Subscribe to Crime Gone Viral because every case we cover is a family that deserves to be heard. Share this with someone who needs to see it. And leave a comment below because your voice matters and this conversation is not over. We are Crime Gone Viral. We cover the cases the world tries to forget. We give the voiceless a platform. We stay until justice is done and even after. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and never stop demanding better.